Hey everybody, this is Perch. Let's see. This mail got my attention. Let's see where we're going with this. It says setting up dialysis while listening to Perch. Okay. It says hello Perch. I listen to every video all the way through. Shocking. I just thought I'd let you know that I do this every night while setting up my dialysis machine next to my bed. It's a ritual, and as a result, I'm behind on your videos, which is great because I always have some to look forward to. Thank you for making my dialysis setup almost fun. I'm glad to help. Um, I'm glad to help. I hope you're doing okay. That's kind of the important thing. Are you? When I went through some health problems earlier in the year, was kind of public about it. I had a couple people write in going, "Why the fuck are you telling people your business like this? You need to keep that completely secret and not tell anyone." And then I got a number of people who were like, "Yeah, I'm having some troubles too," and it seemed to help people out. But cool. I've have a couple viewers I know who listen to this while undergoing chemo, and it sounds depressing as hell to me. But if it works for you, then awesome. I will try and do better. I guess that's the only way I can go with that. All right, so we got one more mail here. Let's get to the bulk of this. But thank you very much for listening, and hope if there's anything that makes things more comfortable and better for everybody, then that's good. Cock blocking entertainment. News cock blocking entertainment is the headline. All right. Let's see what we got. Hello, Perch Momoko. Nice. I can't be the only one who has wondered this, so I'll ask. Do you think news companies are basically cock blocking companies like Disney's profits when they talk about movies through the identity lens? It actually seems like a competing interest. If I'm one of the people behind that Strange World movie, I'd be pissed. I'd be looking at CNN or whoever thinking like, hey, Dick, you know very well that there are segments of our audience that won't turn up to this movie if they think it's an LGBT movie rather than a movie that happens to have gay characters. Am I reading this right? I'm sure the creators want it to be mentioned, but when it becomes the whole news cycle, that has to bug them, right? I know you've talked about chasing outrage for free marketing, but at this stage, I just don't see any evidence that this actually works. It's a pretty mixed bag of success for movies that did and didn't make bank on the basis of being progressive or whatever. CNN wants the clicks from chasing the outrage, but does Disney? Is this something that bothers these companies? It's a great question. And I can give you an actual, like, legit, definitive answer from at least one company, Disney. As you know, Bob Iger kind of back in control at Disney. I think, as you know, if you listen to the channels long enough, I have a number of friends at Disney, and pretty senior people at Disney. It's a story for maybe another time. And one of the nightmares of a lot of these people at Disney over the last 2 years, I'd say, has been the what they call the slide of Disney into progressive first, entertainment second. And the comment basically is along the lines of, we didn't ask for this. We didn't want it. We certainly aren't as progressive as a lot of the news sites and the others make us out to be. But more importantly, even if we want to introduce some of these themes, even if we talk about them from time to time, or even if we want to introduce characters, and by the way, I know the counter argument, and was it clownfish? This would be a good debate that the two of us could have. Maybe that's a collaboration that could happen. But basically, we've heard a lot about, hey, internal memos suggest that Disney is going for an all woke agenda or all progressive agenda. And the reality is more nuanced and more complicated than that. The company is not saying, hey, gay all these movies up. What they are doing is, in kind of classic Disney fashion, and I think there is a huge flaw to this thinking, we'll get to in a moment, but they're going, hey, make sure this movie, this property, whatever it is, goes down a massive ass checklist of all the things to appeal to the widest possible audience you can. The flaw in that thinking is, in some cases, you're appealing to a wide audience that either doesn't exist or exists in such small quantity, you're not actually doing much to cast a wide net. And this giant checklist of things you have to do is starting to supersede things like, entertainment. It's starting to get in the way. That's coming first to, hey, we need to make sure that we actually have a movie people want to watch. That's starting to block some of these efforts. And so what? But to your point, and I think you're exactly hit upon something that is dead right. A lot of the news agency, a lot of the people who are reporting on this stuff, they're trying to get clicks. And so you have a combination of two things that go kind of hand in hand, or very complementary to each other. When you look at it this way, it's pretty sinister in a kind of a weird way. So you have a bunch of, let's say, younger Gen Z people coming into the mix who are excited to write about and promote the progressive topics that their college has kind of pushed on them. This isn't a big kind of right-wing conspiracy. I know if you listen to a lot of the right-wing channels, they'll talk about the indoctrination in college and everything else. But this isn't a news story. Colleges have been overly progressive. They have leaned left hard for a long, long time, way back into the 50s and the 60s. Colleges have had this slant, this tendency. So, you could certainly sit there and go, it's bad, that's fine, but it isn't new. This has existed for a while. And the challenge is a lot of these people come into the workforce and they are typically paid very, their entry level jobs, paid low, and they are going to push their, what they've been taught, what they've been living for the last 4 years out into the world. The challenge is that, a lot of that stuff is not the mainstream. And so what happens is they write things that, basically collide with, revenue and profits and things people want to actually hear and be a part of. So, instantly you've got, you might say, okay, well, the problem there then is that they're basically going to drive a lot of these news companies, a lot of these sites out of existence. Nobody's going to fund that. Nobody's going to buy it. So it will go out of business. But that's where it collides with the other kind of interesting thing that's happened, which is this realization that, hey, a lot of people, when they click on news stories, will click on things they hate. Outrage baiting and kind of outrage clicks turns out to be a highly effective social media strategy, news strategy. If you can do a story where that 75% of your audience or 75% of the people coming in to basically click and read are going to be pissed at what you have to say, that are going to absolutely hate it, you're generating outrage. Well, that's good for business. That's good clicks. People get easily baited by, these topics. So what you have, in effect, if I can kind of boil it down, is you have a bunch of useful idiots who are coming out of colleges with a kind of mentality, methodology, kind of perspective, doesn't align to the real world, doesn't align to the mainstream, but they are eagerly hired and for pennies on the dollar for very, very little. And good news, because, you can also kind of throw in there like, hey, it's really cool, communism. And so you shouldn't be asking for a big wage because asking for a big wage is racism. You should, you should be happy with the peanuts we're giving you. And meanwhile, they're used to generate a bunch of kind of hate click outrage bait articles that then, get attention. I think it's a pretty slick system if you think about it. All just kind of generating a bunch of hot air that doesn't actually do much good, but to your point, is extremely harmful to a lot of the movies. So, Strange World, I watched it, went and watched it. It's not a good movie, and when I say not a good movie, I mean the plot itself is, as paper thin as it gets. Now, granted, it's a Disney movie aimed at kids. I'm not looking for, I'm not looking for Apocalypse Now level of character study of Marlon Brando sitting kind of in the dark. It is a kids movie, so the concepts are simple. But even by simple concepts, my kids are like, boring. That was the feedback. The kids definitely recognized that the boy was gay, had a boyfriend, or basically somebody he had a crush on. Everybody saw it, everybody knew it. It was there, but that really wasn't it was not the crux of the movie, not by a long shot. This movie was not like a gay rom-com. There was very little screen time actually devoted to the fact that the character was gay. Very little. Now, the character themselves appeared in a lot of screen time, but the basic dynamic with the boy was that he basically wanted to follow in kind of grandpa's footsteps, and the dad is, believes that his father kind of abandoned him and was irresponsible to his family, so he doesn't like, the boy idolizing this person who he thinks is a bad influence. That's the dynamic. What is not a dynamic is like, oh, this kid is gay. What do I do? I don't want a gay son. That's not in the movie at all. That has nothing to do with anything. It is definitely a sub back burner kind of topic. Yes, there's a disabled pet. I don't. That's neither here nor there. What probably of the progressive themes that is hardcore in Strange World is the environmental piece. It is a paper thin analogy for coal, and basically, if we're mining the resources on the planet, we're killing it. We have to get to wind power. But to be blunt, the plot and the complexity of this movie is more simple and more kind of boring by the numbers than an episode of Captain Planet. It was there is very little to this movie. You can summarize it like 3 sentences. Family discovers that long lost relative is still alive and exploring in this world, set out to determine why planet is dying, discover mining of resources is the problem. Evil government agency has to be woken up, overthrown, etc., so we can get to more sustainable energy. Family reconciles. That's the movie. It sucks. It wasn't a good movie. But like I said in the other video, and like your question implies, which is true, Jesus, this movie, like the press and the headlines about this movie were relentless about it is a gay movie. It is a gay character. Finally, gay representation. Finally, Disney has its first ever 100th gay character. It went on and on and on. And so, as I mentioned, catching up with some friends at Disney, they don't like this. It's not helpful at all. The general rule of thumb for Disney for a long time, and Chapek wrecked that rule, was don't have people think of the entertainment first and the politics second. If we get our audience, if we get our guests thinking about the politics and putting the politics first, where the politics start to supersede the entertainment, we've screwed up. There's like a magic model there that if we get that out of balance, everything goes to hell very quickly. Everything starts to cause real problems. And that's what Disney is facing right now. And that's what a lot of companies are facing right now. These news agencies that are all out for hate outrage clicks are gleefully writing articles about, taking it to the patriarchy and a bunch of, basically the word salad of terms that gets everybody super horny for these topics, but at the expense of the movies and the projects that they are all about. It's not, and for that matter, we never really talk about this part, the causes as well. If your goal in life is to basically, promote environmentalism, promote LGBTQ rights, whatever it happens to be, if your goal is to promote progressive topics, then hate clickbait articles are an awful way to do that. You're generating resistance to it that isn't there. This is going to come as a weird kind of shock to you, but about 10 years ago, 15 years ago or so, the concept of gay marriage, people had just come to accept it. Like there's not a lot of people out there pissed about it. Most people had come to the conclusion, if they weren't gay, that, what, I don't give a shit. I'm not gay. This doesn't impact me. I'm moving on. That was kind of the mentality. Today in 2022, and there's these surveys and there's been some articles about this, very dry articles that aren't written like hate bait, but that says that people are more against gay marriage in 2022 than they were in 2012. Why? Well, one reason is people won't shut up about it. And when I say people, I mean a lot of these hate bait articles, BuzzFeed doing there's some bigots who won't protect love is love. That kind of stuff just generates people getting pissed off. It's doing the opposite. What do progressive people who are heavily progressive, who are fighting for gay marriage, what do they want? They want equality. They want gay marriage. They don't want to get into all this bullshit. They want gay marriage. They want the same rights for LGBTQ people as straight people where it comes to marriage. That's what they're after. If that's your goal, then a lot of this stuff is counterproductive. It's just generating controversy over something that the world had kind of moved on, or at least not the world, but the U.S. had moved on and more or less accepted. Granted, I'm sure there are 5% of the people out there are still pissed about it, but maybe it doesn't matter if you win over that 5% or not. Maybe you don't need to stand and point and say those people are wrong. Maybe you just let history take care of it. You kind of just kind of move on. It's not worth the continual fight. But by having the fight, it's actually starting to have the opposite effect of tolerance and equality. It's starting to actually get more people riled up about it. Seems like a bad idea. And then to the point of this mail, you've got these movies that are just getting absolutely shit mixed and sabotaged by these topics. It's not helpful to them. It's not selling the movie. Now, Strange World, as I said, I watched it. It sucked. It wasn't a good movie. It was dull. It wasn't offensive, unless the offensive part was I paid money for this dull thing. But the movie deserved to live or die on the merits of the movie, not live or die based on how hate click articles were basically saying this movie is a fight against the patriarchy. By the way, if you need any evidence that this movie will make all the conservatives mad as a marketing approach is a failing approach, guess what? All the people, and there are lots of them on Twitter, on Facebook, talking about how this movie will make all the right people angry. Well, jackass, you still have to go pay money. If you really want to make them angry, you have to go pay money to see it. You didn't actually go watch the movie. You got real happy about the idea, the little fantasy in your head of all the Republicans getting pissed, but then you didn't actually go support the movie. So the headline that comes out is movie is Disney's biggest bomb in years. That gets to be the legacy of this. Is that helpful? Is that helpful? I don't think you made the conservatives mad. I think you actually made them happy. So congratulations. Very counterproductive. And for Disney, it is a nightmare. For a long time, they lived in a world of basically steering nimbly through all this stuff. Apple is a good example. Apple's in the headlines right now around will they or will they won't ban Twitter? Are they getting too much done in China? All the rest. So they're waiting into for a long time. Apple, whose head, Tim Cook, is gay, heavily progressive in his ideology, but lots of people want Apple phones. So Apple didn't, it more or less steered clear a lot of this stuff. They had their own ideology in the background, but they were very nervous to get involved in it because at the end of the day, they want you thinking about buying a phone. They don't want you thinking about the politics behind the person selling you the phone. This is the problem with comics, and the problem with all this kind of stuff is that we need people when they go to the comic shop buying the comic excited about the story in the comic and what they're going to get. We do not need them thinking about the politics of the person who wrote the comic or colored the comic or any of the rest of that stuff. That is counterproductive to selling the comic. Put the product first. The product has to be the thing that leads. If you stray away from that premise, I think you get yourself into horrible trouble. Anyway, thank you very much for the mail. Thank you very much for letting me take some time. This is a longer video, so you probably set up the machine long before this is over. So anyway, thank you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening.